So, a little bit about pickles. You got the calypsos growing. I started out with 2 slicers, and then I planted this one here, which is just starting to make now. This is a variety called Max Pack that I have grown in the past.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, I hadn't grown it in a few years, and we were able to get it this year, and I had forgotten how good a pickling this was. And for those of you out there that like to pickle, this ain't gonna make a big old cucumber. For those of you that like pickles, this is the one you gotta grow. I want you to look at these. These are pretty now. Now what it's gonna do is it's gonna make a bunch of them right there.
That would be what I would classify as a whole pickling pickle.
So let's pull some. Now I pick some of them, you pick them a little smaller if you want to. But these things are just pretty to me. And they load up. I'm talking about, man, they load up. Now, you can't, if you let them get on a little bit bigger, they'll get about that big right there, which is the size of you go buy a big old jar of dill pickles about that big. But that right there, perfect. So if you want to do some whole dill pickles, or if you just like smaller sliced pickles, that Max Pack is the way to go. Now, what's crazy to me is, so this is not a gynoecious variety. It's just a hybrid, but it puts on a ton of flowers, and it's really disease resistant. And so I think it produces just as much as the gynoecious varieties do. It's just a good hybrid. It's got, like I said, good disease resistance. Now I will say these things like to be fed, and I've been feeding them pretty well. They seem to like being fed. We had a guy on the Row by Row group a week or so ago say something I hear y'all talk about giving 20/20 to cucumbers. He was saying he had heard that cucumbers really don't like a lot of nitrogen, don't like to be fed, but these here like to be fed. If you grow them, you got to pick them about every other day. It's like if you're growing short okra, you know, if you're going for a bunch of them right there, they can grow out that size in about a day. So you got to be out there picking them on a regular. But that Max Pack, if you need a good succession cucumber to come in right now, is a lot of time, like, you know, if you live in the South, now's the time to be planting the 2nd or 3rd round of cucumbers, and you want some good picklers, that's a great one right there.
That is interesting.
Funny story about pickling and preserving and stuff. So a lot of people ask us, they want us to do videos and want to talk more about pickling and preserving. And truth is, we don't do a whole lot of pickling and preserving. Now Miss Hoss does a little bit, but I don't do a whole lot of it. And it's mainly I just don't have time anymore. You know, before we had youngins, we used to do a good bit of it. I enjoyed it, it was fun. But nowadays I got so much going on, I don't necessarily have as much time to do it. You follow me?
I'm following you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
So what we have kind of, the philosophy we've kind of taken in the last few years is we're just going to enjoy everything while it's in. We're going to eat cucumbers this time of year till we get sick of them, and then we're going to wait, and then we'll eat cucumbers again next year. What you doing?
Well, you speak for yourself on that pickling thing, because me and Miss Hoss is wide open in pickling season.
Y'all wide open in pickling
and what I want to do today is a little bit of a taste test and let you cherish some of what we've been doing the last couple of days.
Okay. Oh, you're going to blindfold me?
We're going to blindfold you, and you're going to get to enjoy some of what we've been doing, because it's been really different. We've been doing a lot of different new varieties and different things, and it's really fun. Yeah. I like the pickle. You know, pickling has been around for a long time. It was one of the first forms of food keeping food. How about that? From way back in the day. Do you realize way back in the day, the people in the South, you know, they could smoke their meat, but they didn't have any other way of preserving their meats and vegetables besides smoking and pickling. They would have a big bucket or a big barrel out front, and if they killed a coon or a possum, whatever, they didn't have refrigeration. They'd put them in that and pickle them, and do the vegetables the same way. Now, pickled vegetables are good up to 6 or 7 months. So if you do get that abundance harvest, which we all get, and you don't know what to do with them, and you get tired of eating them fresh, like Travis said, you can always pickle them, and you can extend that on into the year.
No, I completely agree with the benefits of pickling. I'm just saying I don't have as much time to do it as I used to.
Well, what we're fixing to do right now is...
Can I see what I'm going to eat?
No, you can't see what that's the whole point of the blindfold.
Okay.
See if I can get this on you. I think that's the handkerchief I didn't put in my back pocket and been blowing my nose on. I think it's the one, the clean one. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. Okay, so what?
I can't see.
Well, you can't see. Well, that's kind of the point of all that.
Okay.
Well, we all know that you can pickle a lot of different stuff. However, I didn't know that there was so many different recipes out there and so much that you could pickle. Now, a lot of people like different, they have different tastes. And a lot of people like different things, and that's fine. You know, we was talking about those whole pickles just a minute ago. I like those. I've never pickled those before, but I do like them. And one of the reasons I probably never pickled them before is I never could grow those little small ones like that. I always grew pretty good sized pickles. And those calypso that I grew,
they are big.
They're bigger and they're more of a slicer. Now, if a fella was going to grow a calypso and like to slice them up and make pickles, you can do, you know, sweet pickles, you can do dill pickles. What I'd like for you to do right now is look back mouth of yours and let me.
You can't hand them.
No,
I don't want
no. We look at another thing too, folks. Before we get started, you really need to be using gloves when you're doing all this kind of stuff. Because if you get something on you and was to wipe your eyes, then you could end up at the hospital. So it's very important that you take precautions when you're doing this kind of stuff. And you can't use your hands.
Okay.
You ready? Whoa. Try that right there. Tell me what you think.
That tastes like one of my
One more time right there. Okay. Yeah.
90-something-year-old grandma. That tastes like her sweet pickle.
That's exactly what it is. So Mama come up here and stay with us a few days, 93 years old, and we made some of her sweet pickles. She had this recipe wrote down on a piece of paper, and I think my wife shared it on the Rover Row group, and she went out there and gave us detailed instructions on how to make them. They're pretty good. I think it's a 3-day recipe. It's pretty quick. Now it is sweet.
Oh, we're not done?
No, we're not done.
Okay.
Hold on just a second.
Should I cleanse my palate?
Yeah, I'll get you a drink of water.
I had a feeling I was going to need some water on today.
Well, you know, we do grow lots of things. A lot of things you wouldn't normally think about pickling that make fine pickling material. So here we go, open that trap again. What you think about that?
That's a pickled beet.
It sure is. That's one of them golden beets that we grow.
Yep.
You know, we put some onions in it too, so you get some little sidekick with that onion in there.
You can taste that earthy flavor of the beet.
Man, that's good stuff.
Those, that one, you can't really, a beet tastes like a beet. If you like beets, you like beets. If you don't like beets, you don't like beets. But
well, that's a profound statement you just made right there.
Well, what I'm saying is that earthy flavor, because some people try to mask it or whatever, either you like it or you don't. Right. You can't really get rid of it.
Yeah. All right, we got one more here.
Okay.
Now cleanse that out good.
I'm a little bit nervous about this last
Well, you know, this day and time, what we've noticed is, and I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction here, folks, we're fixing to see a change in our food web.
Food what?
Well, our food web, the way we acquire food, the way food is distributed and everything. So we've noticed through this virus and this pandemic went through, it has changed the supply of the food. Our government, bless its heart, every time they try to do something, they overreact. And what you're going to see is the government overreacting on a lot of this, and these packing plants and these food processors are fixing to have to implement a lot of new regulations and guidelines to get your food out there in mass production. So what's that going to do? It's going to drive your food cost up. So the prediction that I'm making is your food to income ratio is fixing to go up pretty good. It already has. Some people think it's going to come back down.
What you saying is your grocery bill going to go up?
Your grocery bill is going to go up, and what you spend compared to what you used to spend on groceries for what you make is going to change, and you're going to be spending more on your groceries.
It's going to be a lot larger percentage of your budget.
Exactly. Boy, when you put that blindfold on, just the wisdom comes to you, don't it? So it's not going to go back down. I think it's going to stay up, and it's going to continue to rise a little bit. So it's going to be more important than ever to learn these tricks of the trade, such as pickling and preserving your food, growing your own food, and being more self-sustainable than we have been in the past. We ready?
Yeah, I just want to remind you, karma's bad
now look
deal
here.
Before you.
This is something a little different.
Okay.
Open it up. One more time. One more time. One more time. Come on, get some more of it. One more time.
I got 2, that's good.
Look, you got one more you got to try there. Oh, I want to heap you a little bit. Now, you've probably never had that before.
Okay. That tastes like a pickled onion.
Well, it's not.
Okay. You may guess again? It's kind of crunchier texture. I never heard pickling squash.
Well, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Pickled squash, zucchini,
good.
and yellow squash.
Okay.
Now, we got a few onions mixed in there as well.
Did I get a bite of an onion just then?
You may have. Do you want one?
No, I
was messing with you. You know I wouldn't put no hot stuff on you like that.
Well, I wasn't worried about the hot stuff. I can handle that. You had me a little bit worried talking about pickling possums and stuff like that.
No, I wouldn't put that on. But no, it really did happen. I read a book here a few years ago about that, and that's the way people live.
Did I unblindfold now?
I guess so.
Okay. Woo. It's bright all of a sudden.
Look at that, ain't that pretty?
That is pretty. Those are good. Good little texture to them. Sometimes I have in the past struggled when I pickle is maintaining that crunchy texture.
Fella really needs some crackers to eat them with.
Crackers, maybe a little piece of hoop cheese would be fine. I brought you this as you were planning I eat them all. I figured I'd let you try one. This is them old pickled okras that fella dropped by that day. The ones I got myself a bellyache from eating the whole thing. There's a few left in there if you want to try them. They're still pretty good. So pickling. Speaking of pickle, y'all, I had a completely different. Well, let's tell everybody who we are first. So, y'all, this is our row by row garden show. This is our weekly garden show where we just sit around, talk about things in the garden. Usually have a main topic and everything. I'm Travis.
I'm Greg.
And tonight, I didn't have a show planned to do about our pest control program. And then this morning, or late last night, I just said, I'm going to scratch that.
You had a revelation, did you?
Well, I just said, I got too much good stuff coming out of the garden right now that I want to talk about. And so that's what we're going to do.
Before we go any further, let me share this book here. Now, everybody knows my favorite book is called The Pickle Pantry. Excuse me. Because it's got some good recipes in there I love for pickled okra. Now, however, Miss Hoss loves this book right here. And this is the recipe right here, not Mama's. But these two right here came out of this book here. And she really loves it because you can do small batches. So you can experiment and find out if you like it. If you do, you continue to do a bigger batch next time. But this is a very good book right here. I believe it's put out by Southern Living. So there you have it. If you want to add one to your library, this would probably be a good one. I'm assuming you can buy it on Amazon.
Pepper jelly on the back there. Yeah. That's always one of my favorite things is pepper jelly.
I love good pepper. And you know what? One of my favorite pepper jellies is habanero.
Habanero, yeah. The time you add all the sugar and stuff in there, it takes off a little bit of the edge on it.
It does.
Before I talk about these guys right here, so we're getting real close to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, real close. And I knew it was a lofty goal, but I kind of had this idea in my mind that I wanted to hit 100K by my birthday, which is the 30th this month. So that's not this Saturday, but the next. Now I'm gonna be off the grid. I won't say where I'm going, but I'm gonna be off the grid that day. But I was really hoping we could hit 100K by that day. I'll be 35. That would be a good birthday present. Now, our climb kind of slowed down. That happens with YouTube. You'll get one viral video and it'll shoot up and then it'll kind of flatten out. So we've kind of flattened out a little bit. And I was going to see if we could request the help of our subscribers, our loyal base.
Call in the Warriors
and help us get to 100,000 by May 30th or on May 30th. And if we can do that, I got some pretty good stuff I'm gonna do here. So we're gonna do 100,000 subscriber giveaway. But it's only gonna happen if we hit that 100,000 by May 30th. So what y'all gotta do on your Facebook or whatever, or whoever you talk to, tell anybody you know to go subscribe to the channel. It's going to be real close now based on my predictions, but I believe we could pull through and do it. So here's what I'm going to do. If we hit 100,000 by May 30th, I'm going to do 3 giveaways. I'm going to put some names in the hat and we're going to pull them out. We're going to give away some pretty hefty gift certificates to our online store. Now, how do you enter? This is how you enter. Okay, so in the comments on this week's show, I want you to, whatever your favorite, this is our 103rd episode. Whatever your favorite row by row episode was, I want you to put the title, the complete title of that in the comments and tell me why that was your favorite show. That's your entry right there. Now, none of these entries are going to matter if we don't hit that 100K, but that's your entry right there. And we'll pull all those, put them in a hat, and draw from there. So we're going to draw 3 names if this happens, okay? The first one we name, the number 1 winner, is going to get a $500 $500 gift card.
Did you get permission from the man up
to our store?
From the higher ups? Did you get permission from the higher ups?
I did. The second name we draw is going to get $250 worth of store credit, and the third one's going to get $100 worth. So we're going to give away $850 worth of free stuff. But it's all contingent on getting to that 100K by May 30th. So put your favorite episode and why in the comments, and tell everybody you know to go subscribe.
Especially those people out there that you know that's starting to garden and struggling, we think we could be a big help to them. So, you know, I see it every day. We have people come by here that I've known for a long time that start a garden and they're just full of, you know, energy wanting to get out there and do it. They like the knowledge of the skill set, and they're really interested, and they want, you know, to fill up that knowledge well to figure out what they need to do. So if you got people that you know out there, tell them about us, bring them in, and we'll help them grow their own food.
You know how much seeds you can buy for $500?
A lot.
You can buy a lot of stuff. You can have your whole fall garden set up right there with everything you need. So make sure y'all play along with that there. We'll have some fun with it. Now, these onions right here. Okay. I got 3 types of onions right here. Kind of the 3 main types I grew. We got a red onion.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That's what red Creole.
Yeah.
Okay, I grew those from seed. Here we got our traditional sweet onion. Now, it don't look yellow here, but when it's got the skin on, we call this a yellow onion. Now, I think this is a, I can't remember if it's a sweet harvest or that Savannah sweet.
I would call that a semi-round, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It's not quite real flattened, but kind of semi-flattened. And then here, I've eaten plenty of these in my life, but never grown them. This year I grew some of these white onions. I got some in plants from Dixondale and grew these white ones. Now, I like all kind of onions. Some people only like sweet onions. I like them, you know, all different flavor profiles. And Buddy come over on Sunday. We was letting the kids play together out there on the water slide, and struck up a notion to make some chili dogs. And I tell you what, I went and I could have grabbed any onion, but I grabbed me one of them white ones. Now they do taste a little more like an onion than the rest of these, but you slice you up some of that white onion and put on your chili dog. That is the way to go. So I figured we would do a little, I'll let you do the honors there. Cut a little piece of each and we can kind of compare and contrast the
I've been
flavors.
known just to eat an onion sandwich before. When things got a little tight, put me a little mayonnaise on there and just onion, eat them like that.
Yeah.
Because I've been known to get a little bit of a tight before.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about, something like that?
Yeah, we don't need a big old piece.
Well, I don't see why not. There you go.
So this is our sweet onion right here.
Now, right off the bat right there, you know that's a sweet onion.
There ain't no doubt about it. Ain't hardly any bite to it. Almost got a little bit sugary taste in it right off the get-go.
It's got just a tad heat on the end.
And you can tell them right there got plenty of water.
Yeah. Speaking of water. Oh, I need some crackers.
We just need to keep us a box of crackers down here underneath our stage. So this is a white onion.
Now, talk to me about the white onion before we dig in here.
Now, I will say they didn't. Now, I went overboard on the onions this year and I got in over my head and I couldn't take care of them as well as I should have. But from my experience, the white ones didn't quite get as big as the other ones. But they seem,
as far as taste-wise.
Just a good, tastes like a good onion. Nice. It ain't got that sweetness to it. Got a little more bite to it. When I growing up and we cooked some black-eyed peas and field peas, you cut you up some of that right here and put on them. And that's good stuff. Or a hot dog or whatever. When you really want to taste some onion, especially raw onion.
I gotta have me some sweet pickle go with that.
That white onion is good stuff. And now the red.
Well, just a second. We're doing a lot of taste testing today, ain't we?
Yeah, them folks that don't like us eating on the show, they probably done tuned out by now.
Well, you know, that's the great thing about growing a garden is you get to eat well.
Yeah. That red onion's pretty in it.
You know, you need some red onions to kind of douse that salad up a little bit, make it pretty.
Now I'd say that one there
That's a more mellow of the three.
is somewhere in between the two.
Yeah.
It ain't as hot as the white one,
No,
but it's hotter than that sweet one there.
the sweet one is my favorite.
Depends on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Depends on what. If I'm eating
I'm glad we ain't got to eat the whole onion.
yeah. I have seen you take a big old bite in one before.
Yep.
All right, so onion taste test. My point was here is that white onion is a keeper for me. I think I'm gonna grow more. They seem to store really well, and
Well, it wouldn't be my choice if I was eating an onion sandwich. But I could see using it in some black eyed peas or cooking maybe some salsa and things like
Chili
that. I could see it. Chili dogs, yeah.
all right. Speaking of the allium family, I'm gonna pull these bad boys out here. I pulled all my garlic up, all my elephant garlic, and I had some that were a little underwhelming, but I'd say for the most part, I was pretty pleased with the size of my garlic heads.
You did well.
We fed them good and everything. Now I can't tell now. Sometimes you can't tell until they dry out a little bit more. I really can't tell if they stratified or not. This one here feels like a little knotty, like it might have stratified. Some of the smaller ones don't seem like they did. And what we mean by stratify out there is actually form the cloves. And it takes cold weather to do that. Sometimes we don't get cold enough weather.
I just didn't feel like I had as good garlic crop as I've had in the past one kind of cold weather this year.
Yeah, them some of the biggest heads I've ever grown, but we don't know if they're stratified yet. So they're drying out. You can see them right there. And what I'll do is once this end right here kind of dries out completely, I'll come in there so they store better on the rack. I'll cut them about right there and let them store just like that. But we'll let them dry a little bit more, and we'll kind of leave everybody hanging, and then we'll see if they stratify.
You know, if you'd love to make your own salsa, that's a good thing to have to put in that salsa.
Or that pickled okra right there.
Yeah.
You put your little clove of that in there.
Yep.
All right, one more thing here. Oh, we got several more things because we're just gonna ramble a little bit today. Now, last week on the show,
Yeah.
somebody tried to poke fun at my tater growing ability a little bit.
Well, I
And
was
thought-
concerned. It wasn't trying to poke. I was
And thought they was
concerned.
being a little funny and brought me a little bowl of little bitty old taters that they grew. And I did. I went home and I cut them up. I put them in the air fryer and they were fine. I eat them up. They were good taters. And if people that follow the channel, they know a lot of the taters I planted rotted in the ground because I planted them right before a big rain. But I did have some growing. And me and Ty have been digging them. Let's start off with these red taters here. Now, say what you want
I
to.
found my red taters come in about a week before my yellow ones did.
Yeah, that's about right. Now, for a red tater, that's what I'm happy with growing right there.
That'd be considered a number 2.
Big old, nice red tater right there. Me and Ty, I didn't have about 10 row feet of red taters. And them old tub trucks we use that are 8 gallons, kind of the medium size one. We filled up one of them things on 10 row feet.
Wow.
So we had a good crop. And
I had to use a wheelbarrow, by the way.
you had a lot more row feet than I did. I'm glad I grew the big taters. I didn't have any small taters. Now when my corn comes in every year, I always have buddies over and we do a low country boil. And for that, I like smaller taters. So I figured I'd bring you these here, and then later I'm gonna get some of your little taters because I need some smaller ones for my low country boil.
Okay.
And speaking of big taters, I want you to look at these right here. Now your hand's a little bit bigger than mine, but you can show everybody how big that tater is. Now this from Yukon Golds right there. And that's the biggest Yukon Golds I believe I've ever grown.
They're pretty good size.
That's a big old bacon tater right there.
Yeah.
Now, well, one thing to say about this is, especially you live in the South, if you were in one of the spots that didn't just get bombarded with too much rain, it was a fine year for taters because we had cool nights right on up to harvest time.
Yep. Now, ideally, the potato you'd want to grow is one about half that size. It stores better, it's more consistent, and it's better for boiling. Now, that right there, you have to get you a big, you can't put a couple of those in your boiling pan, but you'd want about half that size, a nice, consistent texture to them. That's
you know
okay.
what that tater right there is good for? You go to the butcher shop and you get you a nice old ribeye that's about an inch and a half thick. And
Yeah.
you grill your steak and you eat you a whole one of them.
But you know, I'll tell you that red tater's a lot better frying potato than that yellow one. Now, I love these Yukon Golds, and we always said they got the butter built right in. But this is a boiling potato to me if there ever been one. Mashed
Boiling or
potato.
bacon?
Ooh, yeah. And that's a better frying potato right there.
I'll tell you what you do with these right here. That don't take. Now you can put them in the oven and bake them like traditional, but that's going to take you about an hour, not counting how long it takes to preheat. And I wish I would have brought one. You know the little dishes like the old ladies take to church when they have a potluck supper. It's got the clear lid on it.
Mm-hmm.
Take you one of them. You put you about an inch of water in there and put your whole tater in there and you put the top on it. Put it in the microwave for about 10 to 12 minutes. And it'll come out taste just like a baked tater. And load it up with butter and sour cream. That's how I like to eat them. I got a few more here. I only had 3 varieties that made it. And this is my Austrian crescents right here. And didn't we eat some of those?
We did.
Danny and Wanda grew a heap of them, and they've been talking about how good they are. And
Roasting potato, hands down. That's what that baby's bred for. That's what it's good for.
put it in the oven, roast it up. The ones you cook, they seem to be better if you get you a little bit of crispiness on that skin there.
You do that with that olive oil and that little bit of natural salt on the outside.
Now I'm about to give everybody a lesson real quick, and this is for those of y'all watching out there. Y'all might want to write this down. These big old taters I grew right here, I didn't do nothing to them. Nothing. Now what I did do, and that's probably why these here ain't quite as big. And I got videos documenting this. Where I grew these taters is where I put that cover crop cocktail of radish, Austrian winter peas, and hairy vetch. I planted it thick, thick, thick. I went in there, I tilled it in, then I tilled in some of that compost. But I'll tell you, from my experience with that compost, it's a little slower to hit than you would think. So what my point is here, if you want to grow you a fine crop of taters and not have to give them a whole lot, that cover crop cocktail recipe I made up this past fall is fine prime to make some good tater dirt.
It'll also cleanse your soil some of that disease problems you have.
And I won't say you don't have to give them any fertilizer, because everybody's soil is different. But come this fall, if you can go ahead and map out where your tater crop is going to be, plant you a combination of tillage radish, vetch, and winter peas in there, and I'm telling you, it'll do wonders. I didn't fertilize these one time. I did spray them a time or two just because I was spraying my squash.
What you did was fed your soil.
I fed my soil. Now you got to till that in. That mixture there is going to work best if you till it in and chop it up. But that recipe right there, I will be doing that again. One more thing about that cover crop cocktail. We have a lot of people ask why we don't sell pre-mixed cover crop cocktails. And it has to do with the germination and the certification and all that. When you start mixing things that have different germination rates, different test dates, makes it really complicated when we have the state coming here and test all our seeds. So that's why we don't pre-mix it, but you can get you a little bit of each, put them in a bucket just like I did on that video.
Mix your own cocktail.
Mix them right up.
All right.
kind of segueing off the tater thing, a lot of people are the taters are getting ready, maybe the onions have been ready, the garlic. A lot of people asking about storing these kind of dry vegetables like this. And so I figured we talk about that a little bit and talk about how we store taters and onions, stuff that don't require refrigeration.
But one thing everybody needs to do when your potatoes are coming in, when your onions are coming in, your squash is coming in, you need to have you at least one low country boil while everything's fresh, and doctor it up good. Have you some folks over, and we do that at least once or twice a year when everything's fresh.
By the time my boil time hinges on when my corn gets ready. Because taters is already ready, garlic's already ready, my peppers are producing now. The last thing I'm waiting on is my corn. I told all my buddies the other night, as soon as y'all just be ready when that corn comes in, we're gonna have us a big old pot of groceries. And I got everything except the sausage and the shrimp. I have to go buy them. But that boil's good to do. But back to storing the taters. So tell everybody how you store them, and then I'll kind of give my idea.
Well, I go back to some of the old, my grandma and granddaddy, they stored them underneath the house. Now, they had a house with no air conditioners, so they had little columns, brick columns. The house was built off the house, off the ground about 1.5 feet. So you had a crawl space. But that crawl space was not enclosed, it was open. And they stored them underneath the house, the onions and potatoes, and they got ready for somebody to send one of us youngins underneath there to go get them. So that's what I kind of go back to. So I store them in my barn in a dark place that's got plenty of ventilation on the ground.
Cool, dark, dry.
Cool, dark, dry place.
Mine, if you watch some of the videos, I have me a little rack built, and this is just like this is what the bottom of it would look. And you can put as many levels on this as you want to. And it's just a basic, simple table here. I did mine with 4x4s and 2x4s in between. And you could use hardware cloth or chicken wire. With those taters that size, you want to make sure you got some hardware cloth on there. That chicken wire sag on you bad.
Or fall through some of it.
So make sure you use hardware cloth on there. It's a little more pricey than chicken wire, but it'll hold up good. And mine has 3 or 4 levels, and I use the top for bucket storage and stuff. But that wire rack gives you good airflow. It's in the shade, goes underneath the barn, keeps everything nice and cool. And this is a good winter project out there.
Yeah, if you're handy with tools and like do a little woodworking, this would be a good project. It's been on my to-do list for a long time because you can store a lot more in a smaller area on a system like this right here than you can just using the ground, what I'm doing. Now, another thing with potatoes and onions specifically is you want to make sure they're not touching one another when you put them out there. So you want to lay them out on the ground, give them plenty of room, and try to keep them not touching one another. And they do a little bit better as far as storage is concerned. If you just pile them up there, you're asking for problems.
Yeah, because if you get one rotten, it's going to affect the other ones and cause some more rotten issues there. What else we got going on here? Some new varieties I want to talk about that we added. And this ain't all of them, but I like to just go over a few a week. Now, a long time we've been having people asking about us carrying some popcorn seed. And
we did a year or two. Last year we had just a limited supply of some popcorn.
I think we give it away on the show.
Yeah, I think we did too.
So this here is called Japanese hulless popcorn, and this is supposed to be real good to eat. Don't get stuck in your teeth or nothing. Makes a nice, clean, crisp kernel. It pops white. Excuse me. we're gonna be adding some more popcorn varieties next season, but I wanted to get this one in there while people still got time to plant it. So we got this. This is an heirloom open pollinated popcorn. Got a 90% germination on it. Should do real well for you. It's gonna make some about 4-inch long ears there.
It's been a long time since I've grown it, but I'm gonna tell you, it adds a little pop to your garden.
I don't have a little drum beat there. The next one I got here is this type of squash. So this is, I'm gonna let everybody do a little research and come back to me on this one. This is a type of squash called a Lebanese squash. This particular variety is called Alexandria. So they look kind of like a light green zucchini, but they're supposed to have really, really good texture. flavor. I'm going to plant me a few of these here pretty soon. So Lebanese squash, supposed to be highly regarded in the culinary community. So it's a summer squash.
So is it widely grown in Lebanon?
And one would think that may have been where it had its origins at. Last two here are melons. And I really wanted to grow this one. And I might have missed the boat on the melon train or whatever, melon boat. This canary melon here. So this thing is called a winter melon. And it's supposed to store a lot longer than your traditional watermelon or cantaloupe or whatever. And supposed to have really good flavors. Really popular in some of the Asian markets. Just looks really pretty. Looks like it'd be good to eat. And then I got a honeydew here that's got powdery mildew resistance. So this is a really good honeydew variety. And you don't find a lot of melons that have that disease resistance. It's powdery mildew resistant, and it's called delectable.
It's got to be good.
Got to be good. What else we got going on? Update on handles.
Well, I talked to my my guy in the Amish community in Holmes County, Ohio. Finally got him on the phone yesterday.
That was a good feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's been several weeks since I could get in touch with him, but he answered the phone on me. They do have phones in their offices now. I'm just telling you like it is. Don't ask me why they don't, but they don't have automobiles or phones at home, but they do have them at their offices. I don't explain it, just telling you like it is. But he answered, and I said, Arlen, how in the world are you? He said, well, I'm doing good, Greg. We're hanging in there. He did say that the virus was late hitting the Amish community, and they've been shut down for quite a while because they actually make furniture components, which is steam bent furniture components. And he said all the furniture stores have been shut down.
It's been slow.
It's just been real slow. So they've been shut down, heck, I don't know, for weeks. And he said they went back to work, but he said the virus has hit the Amish community in Holmes County in the last week. He said last week in Holmes County they had 5 cases. This week they had 26. So they've seen a spike there, although he says he thinks everything's going to be all right. He seemed really upbeat, and we had a nice conversation, and they're working on some handles for us, so we hope sooner than later.
Good. We got a big order in.
We got a big order in. He said that they was having trouble with work. They didn't have much work because the furniture didn't have much orders. And I said, if you'll give me about 15 minutes, I'll shoot you a purchase order and you'll have plenty of work to do. And that's what we did. So we got the ball rolling on that. And it was good to hear from those guys. They're just super nice people. It was good to hear they were doing okay.
Yeah. So we still, still probably a month or so out. When we get them handles in, we have to cut on them a little bit to get them just right. And but it's good to know that there is
color at the end of the rainbow.
Color, I thought it was a pot of gold.
No, it's color. It's color.
One more thing. So we got a new YouTuber we've been working with, and they're in North Carolina, and their name is Green Acre Homestead, and we got some nice videos, and they got them a little lawn tractor. They just ripped them up a spot, tilled it up. Going to plant a big old garden there. Lots of good seeds and stuff. And I thought this was funny. So they were planting some seeds the other day on there. This guy Sam, I can't remember his wife's name. And they were talking about some of our seeds they had. And someone had asked him, were they non-GMO? And he doesn't use the word GMO. He calls them GMOs. And I kind of like, he said, there ain't no GMOs here.
Yeah.
And so I might steal that one. I kind of like that.
GMOs.
One more thing before we get to some questions. One thing I was thinking about the other day is, and we haven't done a show on market farming or small scale market farming in a little while. And if that's something you folks ever like to hear about it, we try to do a few shows a year on that. If that's something you'd like to hear about, definitely let us know in the comments below. But it never really hit me until the other day. So fall/winter market farming, as far as when your time is spent doing stuff, is a whole lot different than summer market farming. I'll give you an example. Fall/winter market farming, we're selling stuff. Well, we got sweet potatoes on the rack that are already picked, but we're selling stuff like cabbage, collards, kale, broccoli, kohlrabi, cauliflower, a lot of those cold crops like that. Those are crops that can pretty much kind of sit on the vine for a little while. It's not something you don't have to pick cabbage every day. You can pick cabbage once a week. And so when our market farming operation in the fall and winter is not very time intensive during the week, but on the weekends, on a Sunday, it could take me, or a Saturday, it could take me 5 or 6 hours to gather all my vegetables that I'm going to sell that week. So on the weekends, it's a big commitment. Now this time of year, we're dealing with stuff like squash, peppers, cucumbers. We already have onions picked, but
okra soon to be. My
okra soon to be, tomatoes, peppers, a lot of stuff that's got to be picked with a lot more regularity. So, I'm picking squash and cucumbers every day. We'll be picking okra every other day. So my time during the week is a lot more taken up. I'm out there in the dark every day harvesting things. But when the weekend comes around, I pretty much got everything picked for that week because we've been kind of grinding towards the weekend. So it was interesting to think about that, and it happens to work out really well with how long the days are. In the fall and the winter, you get home 5:30, you ain't got but 30 minutes or so. You couldn't go pick all that stuff if you had to. So it works out pretty good that way.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to get into some questions from last week.
Yeah.
You going to do that? You didn't bring your
I didn't
sheet,
bring my lessons. I'm
we got to share.
Share lessons
Okay.
with you.
If we answer your question on the show, send us an email to cussserve@hosstools.com. We'll send you a nice little prize.
Chris Cruz says, "Hey y'all, love the show and thanks for what you do. What are your thoughts on fruit trees? Do you grow them? And what are your favorite types? Thank you again."
So, give me my paper back. I made a list here. So, this is not all necessarily trees, but we do have quite a few fruits growing around between my homestead and your homestead. And I'll go through what we got. So, I've got a mulberry tree. I've got a muscadine vine that's about 100 foot long. Miss Hoss has a satsuma tree, which is really good. I've got this old Granny Smith apple tree that they kind of tart. The kids like to eat them. Lemon tree. Miss Hoss has a lemon tree. I've got some thornless blackberries. We used to have them old good pear. Now I don't care nothing about them soft pears, but we used to have
It was called a cannon pear. Some old hard pears.
Them things is fine to eat. And the last one, which I've really went crazy on lately, is figs. And I've got about, I don't even remember, about 30 different varieties, maybe somewhere between 20 and 30 varieties of figs. I planted a lot of fig trees this spring, and I'm going to really get into, I want to have me a big orchard with all these different fig varieties out there.
A couple of them you missed there. So we also have a lime tree.
Lime tree, okay.
And I have a plum-cot tree.
Plum.
You know what a plum-cot tree is?
A cross between an apricot and a plum.
Wow, you on top of your game today. So plum-cots were invented or developed by the University of Georgia at the Byron Station. So if you want to grow something specifically for the South, that plum-cot is a great one. It's been proven it grows in the South. Now here's the kicker. You got to have a pollinator for it. So you got to have some other type of plum tree to pollinate that plum-cot. But mine's young, mine's just a year old. And the two companies that I know carry them, and they may be sold out, they probably are, is Isom's and Stark Brothers. Both of those carry the plum-cots. But if you want to do a little research on it, it's interesting. They hadn't been out that long, but they were developed by the UGA in Byron, Georgia, at a research station. If you don't know, Byron used to be one of the main places where peaches was grown in the United States. So they have a big research station where they evaluate fruits and things like that.
Another thing about Byron, if a fella was interested in getting him a camper,
that's the place to be.
That's the place to go. Speaking about plums, we get wild plums around my house, and they're pretty good to eat. They're a little more tart, they're good.
Yep.
All right, Emily Morgan says she's growing kohlrabi for the first time this year. You got any growing tips, and what's your favorite ways to eat it?
For some reason or other, kohlrabi is one of my favorite things to grow in early spring, especially the fall of the year. Now, I have grown it in some unusual circumstances in late summer down that we used to do a garden at Expo, and I have grown it there. It does not do well when it's hot. It's a cold crop, and it likes a little bit cooler weather. It grows great during the fall, the wintertime, and early spring. You can eat the leaves, of course, like you can any green, But my favorite way of eating it is coleslaw. It makes a great substitute instead of cabbage to make coleslaw out of it. You can also roast it, slice it, put some of that olive oil, salt on there, and put it in the oven to roast it, or do it in little chunks. Either way, coleslaw is the top for me.
Shred it up.
Yep.
Good stuff.
All right, and Mr. Will Texture wants to know what kind of soil mixture would you use for a container garden?
Okay, now I don't have any experience with this, but this is just, I'm gonna just throw out there what I think would probably work the best, and everybody out there can critique me here. So if you are gonna build a container garden or build some raised beds or whatever, I have seen where people will fill them completely with compost. I would not do that just for the fact that you're gonna have to be watering them all the time. You're gonna need something in there that's a little more dense than compost. That compost works good, but man, it drains almost too well. If you plant in that compost, you ain't got nothing to really hold the water there. So what I would do is I would fill it about 2/3 of the way with some topsoil. Just some good, not a lot of clay in it, just good topsoil. And then I would come in on the top 1/3 layer and put some compost in there, and then plant into that. And that way, you got that topsoil down there to kind of maintain some moisture in there. And you're just planting into that top layer of compost. You could even do like the market farmers do and call yourself no-till.
Yeah, you could. Another good substitute would be, if you don't have access to some good topsoil, is use peat moss. Peat moss has a lot of water holding capacity to it, and it would make a great substitute for topsoil to use in that situation. You can buy bales of peat moss. So.
But you want something, I think, down there to hold a little moisture in there, right?
Yeah, and peat moss will do that. Topsoil would too.
All right. Last one here is from Alice Leishman, and she says great suggestions on what she can still plant now. She's already looking forward to organizing her fall winter garden, and usually plan to start seed trays around the end of July. When do we start gearing up for fall gardening? Is it an all-at-once thing or some sort of other schedule? It's a good question.
I kind of ease into it, and I'll plant some of my, because I get wide open on flowers. Of course, we got sweet potatoes. I guess sweet potatoes could be considered fall because they come off in fall. I don't know, but we'll be growing sweet potatoes through the summertime, and they'll be coming off in the fall.
I think she was more talking about when you get fired up about getting your transplants ready for fall.
October, when the weather kind of cools off a little bit, I get all juiced up.
Yeah, it's and I would say it's not all at once thing. It's a gradual thing. As soon as we can see a little bit of break on the horizon as far as the temperatures goes, I'll go out there one day, plant me a flat of cabbage, the next day some broccoli, cauliflower. Next thing you know, we got a greenhouse full of transplants and trying to find somewhere to put them all.
You know, that first morning I walk out there and I feel that fall in the air, that's time you really need to be putting transplants in the dirt. So you need to be a little bit ahead of that. But that's when I get really stoked about it, is when I feel that just a little bit of tinge of cool.
You know, that happens right now. That's when the pecans start falling on the ground.
Yep, it's time to get busy. Yep.
All right, well, we just kind of had a thrown together show tonight, but I kind of enjoyed it. I hope all y'all enjoyed it out there as well. And if this is your first time watching us, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button down below so you get notified every time we come up.
And share with some of those friends of yours that's new to gardening out there.
Yeah, don't forget to share, tell the world so we can hit 100K and we can give away a bunch of good stuff here for y'all. And if you enjoyed the show tonight, check out these other 2 videos right here as well. I think you'll really enjoy those too. We'll see you next time.
Take care.